Hello, I'm Jareth Garza with the Locksmith Academy, current reigning champion of Texas 3 times. Uh, with me is second place, also known as Nathan Reyes. Is that how you say your name?
That's how you say it.
Awesome. Why don't we start with just tell me a little bit about yourself and who you are so the audience can pick up and see just what exactly you bring to the table.
For sure. Yeah. I am a veteran with the National Guard, the Army. I got deployed once to Afghanistan. So that's just a little bit getting my military background out of the way. But
Thank you
as
for your
far as
service.
lockpicking is concerned, I run Alamo City Locksport here in San Antonio. And as far as my employment and how I make my money, I do cybersecurity for the government. But other than that, there's pretty much mostly just lock sport hobbies and me giving all sorts of presentations here, there, and everywhere. I love I commonly say and I commonly show how much I love to yap. So I always go to places where I can talk and socialize. And TLA was a excellent place to talk and socialize. Very very fun time that I had there, and very excellent competition to be able to be a part of. So I. I'm looking to try and see what I can do to sort of emulate that same level of competition that we had, because it was extremely fun. But as far as who like mile wide, inch deep, former military guy who loves lockpicking, absolute dork. I've watched way too much media in general, and I generally like to get into computers and solve puzzles.
Nice. That's kind of what got me into locksmithing is the puzzles, and
Oh yeah.
figuring things out. People always ask me, like, what does it take to be a locksmith? And easy answer is you are a problem solver. You look for a solution and you challenge yourself. How long have you been doing lock picking?
13 years.
Shit, damn. Yeah, that's long. That's as long as me, basically. How old are you?
I am 26 years old.
Okay, you got in real early.
Yeah. I was
Real
in
early.
high school, and it's a really boring story, but one that makes me laugh still. I was in theater class, of all places, and someone came up to me and they said, "Hey, we're trying to get open this lock," and they hand me a TSA lock, a bit of information I did not know how to identify at the time. And they said, "You look like you could open this. Can you give it a shot?" And I said, "I'm going to." Well, I thought to myself, "I'm going to ignore." That pointed jab. But sure enough, I did prove them correct. I could open it because I had some paper clips and a Wi-Fi connection at the time. So that's pretty much how I got into it. And then shortly afterwards, I went home and I asked my dad, "Hey, would you mind if I got a lock picking kit from the Sears catalog?" And sure enough, he said yes. And then quickly found a lock that was in our garage for some time. I still have that lock, by the way. It still goes with me to almost every meetup, and it's one of the first like actual padlocks I ever picked. So very fun introductory experience, and then beyond that, the struggle of finding locks that were old and nobody wanted them, or buying new ones was always a pain, especially as a high schooler. And then eventually, like I would pick it up here and there and everywhere, once, maybe 2-3 times a year. And then when I was in Afghanistan, there was a master sergeant who came into the office I was working in. And in short, they were trying to find a piece of equipment that was left behind by one of the local nationals that was working with us. And that piece of equipment was stored in their personal desk, which was a wafer lock in a cabinet drawer.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a big no-no as far as policy is concerned. So they were asking if anybody knew how to pick a lock. So I felt like MacGyver at that point, where I was just like, hold on, I need a bobby pin, I need a paper clip, and I need a multi-tool. And I already got the multi-tool. And so that's pretty much how it started. And they did say, "Hey, somebody write this guy up for Army commendation or something like that." They never did. My unit was not particularly proactive when it came to paperwork, but I got out, and then after I got back from Afghanistan, I decided, hey, it would be really cool if instead of being interested in quite literally everything, I focus in on one particular thing. And then I realized there was a very active and very enthusiastic community in the lockpicking sector of hobbies and Reddit and all that place. So I decided, screw it, let me jump back into it. And soon enough, I had picked through every lock that I could conceivably get my hands on. And then I still wasn't satisfied. So therefore, I decided to go online and find out if anybody was like hosting a Locksport meetup. Sure enough, they were. And that's it. That's pretty much how the rest of the story is played out. I just started getting more into the community, and I started keep pushing myself to get out there. And yeah, that's pretty much just how it was. Got back from Afghanistan, decided fuck not doing anything, so I just kept doing everything.
So, are you in charge of a lock sport group now?
I would say I am one of the co-officers. It used to be the case that it used to kind of reside as far as scheduling, planning, points of authority used to be just in one person. That did not work as the group went on a long hiatus due to that one individual kind of like not planning anymore, not really residing within the community anymore. And so like it kind of went dead because no one was taking responsibility for it. And so I decided if I'm going to bring it back, it's going to get fully restructured as far as like who operates, who pushes, who has access to what accounts, and like basically organize it a bit more. Like
Right.
it's not just like a meetup thing. We now actually have like Locksport captains is what I describe it as, or officers rather. I self-describe myself as a captain as I am kind of like leading the charge on that. But in general, I refer to myself as a Locksport officer for Alamo City Locksport.
And we kind of had a discussion, like briefly. We had several brief conversations, but
Oh yeah.
you were down by the monstrosity, or not the monstrosity. That was the old one. The towers. Showing me your jiggler, and I had remarked like, I mean, lock sport groups have been in play for like 15 years, and they never do anything. And what we're trying to do, Chris, me, TLA, everybody involved, is trying to actually like organize like a legitimate competitive event, where we can see who's the best, who's the fastest, what tools, what methods, just showcase, the hobby that got me into my career,
Yeah.
essentially. It kickstarted my life for the most part. But a lot of people, it's just picking locks, and then some of them collect locks. That's what happened to me. Is I started to collect rare locks, and then the rare locks would be more valuable with a key, and then I would
Yeah.
make a key, and now I'm a locksmith. You know what I mean? So it's like, everybody has kind of their entryway into locksmithing. And are you going to be a locksmith, or are you satisfied in your digital security field?
I will say the current trajectory and opportunities that I have available to me, it is as lucrative as I know being a locksmith can be, and as sort of engaging as it can be. I am multifaceted as far as being a puzzle solver and someone who works in and around. Oh, give me just a second. Gonna go. Oh, okay. So I am basically I'm multifaceted as far as like what I consider to be a puzzle solving. Have a good time.
Bye, thanks.
Bye. And so being a locksmith is probably not going to be in the cards for me, but I encourage anybody who is interested in doing that and pursuing it. And the TLA is actually a excellent point in that, because now I actually know some locksmiths like on a first name basis, and they follow me on Instagram, and I've reached out to them to where I can start creating a pipeline for anyone who's in, who shows up to our groups, who maybe might be interested in learning the craft and eventually getting into that. Because it used to be like, oh, I'd love to be able to get your interest in this, but I have no idea where to send you. Now I have a full pipeline as far as like, inspiring interest and then moving them along into the career path if that's what they choose. But
Right.
there is way too much stuff that is in the digital side of things. Like for example, I work mostly security operations as of right now, so that means like looking for the bad guys in the system, trying to see who hacked the code, where it came in, where it left, basically standard cybersecurity stuff, trying to find out where you can harden the system, where the system's not hard enough. And beyond that, though, I would love to move into being a that comment is absolutely true. It is a gateway drug I've seen for people to be like, wait a second, I could make money off of this. And I'm like, whoa there, bucko, go get certified first. Because I am not going to condone you being like, no shade to Pop-A-Lock service. There is a use for it. In fact, the SAPD here calls on them every now and then. I accidentally got called from them because my name got associated with Papa Lock because a friend of mine asked me to do a welfare check for a buddy of his. And so that was a weird phone call that I got from, some guy asking me to help him get into his house because, I was apparently Papa Lock. I did not go to that scene because I was not in town. So, and I called the police department. It is not my job. So I had them take me off that list. But as far as, everything else is concerned, as far as like digital security and whatnot, there is a entire facet that does involve physical security, known as red teaming or physical pen testing. And I am very much interested in eventually maybe pursuing a career in that. But there is a whole slew of other facets when it comes to cybersecurity. So you can be the blue team where you're, setting up your forces and defenses, or you could be the red team where you're playing the bad guy, putting on your hacker hoodie and you type in and you use the most common methods that attackers would use to try and, penetrate a system. Penetration tester, pen test. And you basically test whether or not the system holds water. And if you find a flaw, you report it. So in a sense, it's very much almost the same as what the Locksport community does. It's almost as if Locksport community kind of is very closely associated with the hacking community because they find flaws, they report it, and then, as per usual, most enterprise and big manufacturers decide to do nothing about it.
Yeah, that's typical. Yeah, locksmithing is like it's on parallel, I like to say, with the criminals, because sometimes they teach us something, sometimes we teach them something, but both of our jobs is to like circumvent security, go around devices. Like the dealership will try to lock us out of like Chrysler, Mopar, and we will unplug the module and plug around it, and it's like, we kind of walk the road of digital security as well when it comes to automotive. Like what is the secret key code, the PIN code, the handshake, the synchronization code, etc. And honestly, that's where I start to jump out of things. Is like, I'm not real good with numbers, but I'm really good with penetrating physical security. So speaking in regard to what you're talking about, I'd probably be red team, breaking into doors and stuff and testing, pin testing physical security. That's kind of what I like to do. It gets me proud whenever I can defeat someone's lock and I'm like, gotcha.
Yeah, I'm recently helping a family friend go check out houses and whatnot because like I'm the security guy, and so they wanted to see like, hey, how bad are the bones in this place? So it's fun. I walk up and I was jokingly telling the realtor, and I'm just like, oh man, I love these lock boxes. Hold on, I should probably correct and say, when I say I love something, it's probably not the best for you. Just because I love the lock boxes, I love having those variations and decoding them. In fact, I actually came up with a method for decoding one of the 12 input buttons for the lock boxes that Master Lock makes. And I got to teach that to Deviant Olem at the TLA over the weekend, which I was really excited. I also got to teach that to Brian first. I'm not going to go ahead and like mention his last name here, but Brian, stellar guy. I met him in Vegas during a competition called Red Team Rush, which I won, and that was a hell of a time. And basically met him again here. Did not expect to see him, and so he may or may not be coming down to San Antonio, and I get to see him again real soon. So a lot of fun connections that were made, and those guys work with Red Team stuff, and their previous methodology for trying to decode those was like to bring, in essence, other equipment to try and be able to figure out the code. My particular method requires no equipment, and so it's really fun to be able to like find out new ways and actually finally go into doing that. Oh, hey, yeah. So we got someone else here who was at Red Team Rush. So you may have seen me there. I was the guy trying 3 times to win the Red Team Rush challenge. And I eventually got the best time. So I was declared the champion.
So I've defeated a champion.
You have defeated a champion. You can go ahead and put that on your resume.
Oh, by the way, just
here we go.
So we're clear. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I had to bring it. The other one is still on the wall. I didn't want to take it off. I was like, yeah, I think one's good enough. I want to know, like, your perspective coming in as somebody who's completely like non-privy to a locksmith convention. The TLA opening its doors to, a lucky select few.
Mhm.
What was it like for you? Like when you walked in, what happened?
So, in essence, and unfortunate to say, like, I love being everywhere. And that kind of causes a problem when someone expects me to say that it was the most special thing ever. I am a unfortunate master of understatement. It was still one of the best conventions I've been to, though in small size, though in small thing, because it was a very interesting facet of something that I find interesting, the business side of how all this is set up. I did not know that locksmiths have a particular set of laws that they can call on a particular set of lawyers for. I did not know that locksmiths have a particular set of insurance. But all these things are kind of like duh moments when I show up to a convention where it is something that I know a lot about how to physically engage with. I don't know a lot about how to mentally engage with. So I was coming there with like a lot of questions. And while I did not leave with as many answers as I would have liked, I was very, very much enthralled in the competition. Coming in as someone who does not do locksmithing for money and has kind of like a very shallow level understanding of all the bits and pieces that go into making up the entire career, just for one person. Like if you're running your own business, there's of course like you have to figure out your budget, you have to figure out what things you got to do. Now that's all surface level, that's business stuff. But then there's legal, then there's payment card industry, then there's transportation, then there's availability, then there's hours, then there's this. And so like I was very interested in being able to go and see that as a lock sporter, someone who does this as a hobby, who has time to pursue and engage this stuff, to see how people truly grind out this level of skill set, not just on a day-to-day basis, but like over the span of a couple years, and how the lessons that they've learned. And of course, for me, I don't get particularly offended if someone thinks that they're better than me. In fact, I kind of leave it up to the chance of just like, hey, maybe you are, and I'm very interested to see what information I can steal from you, because if I'm doing nothing else, it's learning, and so
Right.
it's very much fun for me. And so when I showed up, and there were people with like pretty heavy biases towards those select few. Yes, exactly. It is definitely like being a home cook and running a restaurant. It's a significant difference. But
I always find it interesting how like people like first whenever I jumped in all the machines. So I was like, what's the difference between the machines? There's like 15 different robotic machines all at different costs. And then you start to see like how people implement like certain ones are fast. So they run them in an auction vehicle where they're cutting like 15 car keys,
yeah,
an hour or something like that. Then you got ones that are super fast for duplication. You got corporate locksmiths who have like 70 employees just duplicating keys for hospitals and stuff all day. And it's
geez,
like there's a myriad of opportunities and applications for technology that just is like it's insane. You don't find most of what we have outside of locksmithing, not even in
yeah.
lock sport. Just super interesting tools. And speaking of different tools, you guys brought jigglers. Can you tell me
Yeah.
about those?
So jigglers, I wonder if I actually have them. I have my goes most places kit with me right here, and we might get into that in a little bit. But I have the bane of the red team rush, and the bane of at least the first three locks that we had on the residential side, the single-sided jiggler. And in this case, it is from Covert Instruments, which, like you don't have to particularly get it from them, but I find this one to be extremely useful, especially for teaching single-sided jiggling, or jiggling in general. So what this does is it has a hinge right here,
Here, I'm going
for
to put you on
where,
full screen. There you go.
yeah, so it has a hinge right here for what looks kind of like like a key shape, but really it's just thin. It doesn't actually have like any shape to it. This is meant for actually wafer locks, and it's really useful for going up to cabinets, shaking it in there, and then twisting at the same time. So whereas with lock picking, you have, in most cases, a combination of, a tension tool and a picking tool. with Lishi, you could say it's pretty much a hybrid. It is a tension tool and picking tool in one. This is very much the same. However, it's the motion of that hinge point right there that is the most difficult to teach people. And so you try to teach them like, no, like relax, like kind of like hold it like this while you're jiggling it in inside, like just very relaxed. Now you can just have a full-on grip with it, and it works just fine for teaching people. So it does act as a turning tool, just like a key, and you're just kind of wiggling it vigorously as you're like barely trying to turn it. It is a extremely effective tool, and surprisingly works a lot more than it really should, honestly.
Yeah, it scared the shit out of me whenever you guys all went before me, and I put a lot of thought into my kit. I brought 5 picks, I think. And you guys jumped up there and jiggled over locks so quick. I was like, oh shit, like I'm actually in trouble. We actually have footage of you using it. So
yeah, this was a fun moment. And you can definitely read on the side there. This was not the winning run, as I am second place, but it was definitely a moment when everybody was like, oh shit, this is gonna get really good. And it was. Yeah. It was good for right up until the end.
So you caused me to black out whenever you did this. Like I literally blacked out, and I was like, was that 5 or 2 minutes? And they're like 2 minutes, and I'm like, oh my god. So all right, let's watch it real quick. This is where I black out because they're like 1 lock, 2 lock, holy shit, 3 locks, and I was like, ooh! Oh my god. All right.
So yeah, that's the single-sided thing. I thought was a CH751, and then that I don't know what it was. I'm guessing it was like a car lock for like the back window or something like that. And then right there on the third lock, that's a quick set. That's one of those locks that should not be able to be opened by the single-sided jiggler. But I explained to somebody one time that if I'm encountering a lock that's like stupid, like it's not giving me any feedback, I'm gonna try the single-sided jiggler on it because as Forrest Gump once said, stupid is as stupid does, and this is quite literally the stupidest tool I have. Like it's supposed to be the lowest level of form, like even lower than raking. Like it's supposed to be that low level of skill. So basically I tried, and if you go back in enough footage of the TLA competition, you'll see that like my approach to most lock picking stuff is start with the lowest skill tool that you can get away with, and then slowly increase to the most complex tool that you need. And so when it came to like the pack locks that we were using, I had been practicing those for like weeks. I already knew exactly which tools got me in fastest, so there was no need to test anything else. But with those unknown locks on the residential side, I started at the lowest possible skill level and then slowly rose up to more and more absurd. So yeah.
That's kind of what I did in the last round is I started with wafer locks like you, and you smoked through 3 of them. When you got through the quick set with the jiggler, I was like, oh no. I was like, surely he'll have trouble with the Schleg or something like that, right?
And I did.
So yeah. And I went Schleg quick set. Then I was like, the wafers are going to be cake. So I knocked them out. So then we're 3 to 4 right there. And as luck would have it, I picked the 5th lock with 4 seconds left.
The Yale lock, man. I was thinking that one was going to be in the bag for me because at that point, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I was one of the only people, if not the only person, up until that point, to get the Yale lock at the bottom.
Yeah, I was one of them too. It was a difficult one. I assumed, like most Y1s, I was just going to be able to rake it.
Same. And
I had to SPP.
Oh, look. Yeah, I had to SPP a bit, but I got lucky and was able to rake it open fairly consistently up until that last moment.
Of course, yeah. Let's go to my little video. Your video was the first 30 seconds, about maybe 45. And if I can, oops, wrong screen. If I can click this.
Yeah, this is like the last moments before I slowly kiss first place goodbye.
You can look in my eyes and see no white, or just fucking black pupils, no brown.
Yeah, you're not there, man. You're not in there.
I was in the lock. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That was fucking awesome. Like I used to be a competitive air rifle shooter back in high school, and one of the things that you have to learn in doing it is that when it comes down to time, and when it comes down to knowing that you're going against good opponents, you have to be excited to be there, but you can't be frantic. And so that's
Right.
kind of like the fun balance of being there is like trying to be faster than the other guy, trying to be better than the other guy, but also trying to like
Be collected.
be collected, hone in, know what you're doing at all points, you know? Yeah, it's the fun one. But this was my first time going about it. And as far as like, I was told coming in that, we're gonna, oh, it's one thing to pick locks at home in your nice controlled environment. It's an entirely other world, picking it surrounded by people heckling you and doing all this and that. And I'm just like, man, I don't know what people are talking about. I heard stories of people like picking there last year, and they were just like, it was horrible because all I could think about was the people around me. Me at that packlock table, the most visible with everybody around us, I could only see max 5 people, and that was the people at the table because that's how you compete. Nobody else exists. So
The packlock table was actually, how do I put it? Last minute. It was supposed to be 5 padlocks per person. But honestly, I thought it was cool because it reminded me of like Men in Black, where they grab the guns and go through the target range, And they all had them on the table in that order. And I was like, that's cool. And not to mention 5 minutes. I think
oh yeah,
out of like 7 or 8 rounds of the padlocks, only like 3 people picked them.
yeah,
They
it
were
was a big
actually quite a
qualifier.
tie.
And I thought like one of the things that was very easy to note is that there was only one singular person who did not have any background as a lock sporter and was just a locksmith to open it, and that dude raked it open, which was freaking hilarious to me.
You talking about Roberto Rivera?
Absolutely, I am. That man is a freaking monster. I love him.
Yep. I talked about him the last podcast, and I don't know how he wasn't in the final. I think he kind of should have been. I don't know because I was out running around, but I swear he's going to win it next year. He's going to win it next year. He's fired up. He's never picked padlocks or residential, and yet he was still clearing the field.
Yeah, which is very impressive on that. And as far as like the not being clear on how things were progressed, I think the rules and how it was set up was kind of like a little bit hazy to try and get people to understand. But I think it was a really good system, which was not like, hey, it's like one-time elimination or one-round elimination either. It's collective wins. And I think that's actually really cool, but maybe it didn't come across as easily. And as far as like a leaderboard is concerned, it's kind of difficult to keep track of like, hey, am I out or am I still, am I still alive?
I literally had to ask that. I was like, did I lose? Am I out? And they're like, no, you're advancing. And I was like, okay, just picking up my tools now. I was like, holy shit. It was back to back to back, like insanity. Well, let's see real quick if we can pull up this video of, I think this is the complete last round. And, oh, nope. Hey, wrong button. There we go. So audio, terrible audio, trying to capture in this.
Yeah, there I am. There you are.
There's Chris.
My girlfriend got a video of this happening too from like a different perspective. She's like behind your shoulder on the right side.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see her like right there, smack dab in the middle, next to the lady in the pink dress, which is actually my mom. So,
I see. Yes.
Yeah, so she got that perspective, and she was. I need to actually go back and review the video because she asked me like what we spoke about in the middle because she thought it was like a really fun, cute moment that like in the middle of a competition, in the middle of the final, we're just like, dude, are you there? Like, are you full set? Like, fuck, man, yeah, I'm there. It's just fuck, like.
So like really like. You're friendly and you have a good competitive spirit, and you dapped me up, and I was like, that's what's up. I'm like, most of these other people are like, oh, and they walk away. And so like, we're in this 2-minute round, And I'm like, dude, I picked this lock already. And you're like, I did too. And I was like, I feel like it's one pin just hanging up. And you're like, me too. And I was like, fuck, 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 looking for it. And here's the best part is I didn't know it was a 7-pin lock until afterwards. Whenever I got my whenever we got our commemorative patches and it says 7-pin lock on it, I was like, oh, it was probably the last one that was just ready to be go bloop, and I was like, there's no way there's 7. There's no way it's that deep. And
so in that case, that in particular, the lock sporters had an edge because every single one of us knew about the Paclock 98 Pros, how it was constructed, and the stuff that we would encounter on it. That still didn't help us, though. As you could tell, like only one of us ended up advancing to this point. But as far as what you're saying, like dapping you up and being a good sport about it, like that goes all the way back to a pre-competition ritual, if you want to call it that I had in competitive air rifle. There was like a lot of people on my team, and they grew out of this once they realized like they would be seeing these people more and more often. But
there we are talking right there.
Here we are talking. Yeah, you can see me smiling, cheesing up because like we're just like, we're just yapping it up at the middle of this competition. And like I said, like I could hear you clearly, though people were like shouting like at this point. I can hear you clearly because when
we're locked in, dude. I'm watching you, you're watching me, I'm watching the lock.
There's nothing else going on. Yeah. But like I said, it was like a pre-ritual for me in high school to go up to the other competitive shooters from the other high schools and just chat them up, especially the most skilled one, the one that I was told to be the most, hey, watch out for them. I would go and chat them up and I'd let them know like, hey, we're just here to show who's better. That's it. And at the end of the day, I have no problem swapping what I think, and I hope you do the same, but I'm just chilling, man. And so that's what I would do. I love winning. I love being able to take away a winning spot from somebody because that's just competitive nature right there. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to tell you to go fuck yourself because you didn't win. Like,
I want to get better. And whenever I see people who are like my level or greater, I'm like, that pushes me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's fuel to the fire. And I don't understand whenever people get upset over like, oh, he was using jigglers. I'm like, dude, those jigglers smoked my ass. So
oh, they're sour that I used a tool in any tool competition. Oh no, it looks like somebody didn't listen to the rules.
So here we are right here towards the end of the competition. And if you recall, like the podcast like a month ago, Sandman was saying like, I wish more people SPP'd in competition. And we SPP'd mostly, it seemed, except for, in the longer leg of the first or third round. But right here we got like 10 seconds and we're like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, just trying, just gambling, like going for it. And I thought that was funny. I was like, of course, right?
Because that's the Hail Mary moment. Like, hey,
yes, it is.
In 10 seconds, you can rake open a lock. You're not likely to open a lock in 10 seconds single pin picking. It's not likely. It has happened and it will happen again, but it's just not likely. So you got to play the odds.
Yeah, I agree. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Now here's something I want to get into. You lock sporter guys, no offense, suck with automotive leashy. It's like you've never seen them or something. Explain it. Like you've never used them, never seen them. Why is it so difficult for you lock sporters?
Not the case. It's not that we never used them, never saw them. In fact, I was the one who, for the team that I was on, we went and I brought like a whole roll of leashy automotive locks, reaching into my mystery bag again. And I basically put this on loan because I'd been working with these for like a week. Basically just kind of using all these tools. Now I can pull each one of them out, but I'll save you some of the suspense. None of these, except for a singular tool, was represented on that wall. So therefore, I did not have experience in the wide range of the automotive leashy capability that was presented there. So it's not that I didn't know how to pick one. In fact, during the first round that I got on it, I was able to pick 2 of those locks open.
Do you know which?
Surprisingly enough, I think one was the Nissan because I'd never worked on one. And so the other one was, I believe, like the HU something. Basically, It's on my car. It's the one that can be used from like Lincolns and whatnot. But like
Oh,
HU
HU
something.
101.
Yes, that one. And I'm surprised I even got that one because I was hoping, of all things, that there would be two that were not included on that wall, and that was going to be the Toy 48, basically like the four-armed one from Hell, and
Yes.
the HU 101 because that one just had so many like stop checkpoints, and I'm like, fuck, shit, man. I did get to practice. I practiced on my own car because I could not find one or enough at the pick and pull here in San Antonio. But I definitely am going to be like encouraging myself to go out and get way more locks and try and get some resources to get more leashes because that was a moment that is kind of different. And this is where, in particular, I made some notes, and so I'm going to pull kind of like from a scripted thing. Yes, that's exactly the point. It's very difficult for lock sporters to get their hands on regular, everyday automotive vehicle locks because if you try and get them on eBay, they're selling them for a ridiculous price. If you try to get them brand new, everyone's just like, "Who the fuck are you? Get away from me!"
Yeah.
And if you go to a pick and pull, well, that's just manual labor that you got to do. And what if you don't live near one? Like, then you're fucked.
And they charge a lot sometimes for
They
locks.
charge $5 for a freaking lock that isn't going to be used and nobody has the key for. So what are you doing? Anyway, again, it's not an easy buy-in, and so I went to the pick and pull, and funny enough, that was an excellent experience. I learned how the quicker and more efficient ways to get locks from cars, which is
Mhm.
something that most people probably will never have to say or learn. And it was really, really fun getting to learn that experience. But at the same time, I was the only person on the team that knew generally how to pick auto leashes, pick with auto leashes, and pick auto locks. Um, yes,
I agree. Oh, yeah. He says there's probably a market opportunity there, but it's pretty niche market. I mean, he's right. If somebody was to pull locks and sell them on eBay, I was
yeah.
honestly just thinking about that. I was like, interesting.
I might,
So,
yeah, it might sound like a good way to, especially help sponsor Alamo City Locksport. Like most of the things I do for Locksport, I did try to make money off of it once, and that was teaching firefighters non-destructive entry. But that kind of crumbled through because, well, the business practice that we were doing wasn't like really all that great, in my opinion. We could have done better, but it kind of fell through, and my life was taken off in a different direction at the time. And so I don't know. It was a bad vibe for me not being a locksmith and trying to make money off of lock sport, which is just my hobby.
hmm,
And so if I'm going to make money off my hobby, it goes directly back into my hobby. And right now I'm at the point where it doesn't support me, it supports a community.
I
So
see.
that's where it goes into. But as far as that, I actually wrote in my notes that it is a excellent event that should absolutely be kept at all cost because it is the perfect branch between making sure that lock sporters meet the locksmiths where they're at. And as far as the padlocks are concerned, that is actually, generally speaking, a really good way to make sure that the locksmiths meet the lock sporters where they're at because that's a skill level that is kind of a little bit they're different in the sense. Most of the times people who want a padlock gone, they don't even call a locksmith. They just chunk, get it right
Yep.
off themselves. And so I can't imagine that locksmiths get called out to remove a padlock too many times. Um,
There's one particular situation that I'm called to a lot. I live in a college city with a lot of storage,
oh yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
so you get those enclosed hasp storage units with the
Oh,
what's
you're frozen.
discus, huh?
You're frozen right now. You're kind of glitching.
Uh-oh.
I think
Am
we're
I
I think
back?
we're good. Connections reestablished.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
All right, cool. Yeah, we get those discus locks that are set onto an enclosed storage unit. I have to pick
Yeah.
those. Or a lot of people drill them. And I agree with you. Like locksmiths, they don't pick a lot of locks anymore with picks. So
Yep.
the lock sporters coming in, like a couple of guys were making fun of your gauntlets. I was too a little bit. I was like Batman, ping, 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 ping.
Hell yeah,
But
man.
they were kind of cool. Like you had quick access to tools. There's something that we don't see. And even a few people were like, "Yo, I'm buying some of those." So it was
So
kind
that
of
was
neat.
that was actually like a moment when I realized like, oh shit, I can actually make this into lock sport. So the magnetic things that you're talking about, I kind of carry them around lately, but they're basically just like tool bit holders, like for when you're working on construction or working with a drill. And all they are is they go on your wrist like this. And pretty much every photo from the TLA convention, you will see me with these on. All that's in here is just inline magnets. And so all I do is throw that right. Oh, that's a bad example. All I do is throw whatever tool I want right there, and it sticks. It sticks very well too. I can increase the size of the tool to like maybe a full steel pick handle, and it sticks very solidly right there. And so I was thinking literally only about a week in advance of the competition how I do this. Like I said, I have a background in competitive air rifle shooting. A lot of it was trying to figure out ways to eliminate any other factors. So in lock sport, the factors that we're dealing with, and especially in the competition,
Movement. Yeah,
is time, because you are giving us 5 minutes to operate. And that means we have 1 minute per lock. Every single second absolutely counts. And so, or in the case of the padlocks, we have 5 minutes for one insanely difficult lock that most people don't get in 5 minutes. And so we have, quick access to it, because here's the time difference between having, trying to pull a pick out of your case. Okay, let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, almost about 5 seconds. Now, if we just have the picks laid out on the table, we can lower that time too. So like, let's say I'm using this. So we go, okay, 1, 2, 3, and there we go. I'm set up for the next one. Now, if I'm trying to switch between two different tools, like say this one and this one on my wrist, it was going to go to, okay, 1, 2, barely anything.
Yeah, a lot quicker.
So that was the goal, and I actually had a system that was set up that I could consistently do, and I was one of the only people that actually had 2 of these. Sandman had 1 on his wrist for holding his tension tools. I had 2 for holding 1 on my left hand, because I need to be able to grab it with my picking hand for my picks. So my picking hand was going to be reaching for the picks, so therefore they were on my tension hand. My tension hand was going to be reaching for my tensioners, so therefore they were on my picking hand. And so that was the thought process of having them in a way set up. Now on the picking side of the gauntlet, I had my first draft tools, so basically like your short hook and a brand new one from Covert Instruments called the Reaper Kit. And I lovingly call this one profile number 4. This one is pretty dang awesome. It comes from the Reaper Kit, and you can see it has a number 4 right there. This one's excellent because of that small curve right at the tip right down there. It keeps the interference of the pick out of the way, especially for some of those deep set pins. But it doesn't have such an aggressive hook, much like some of the deeper set hooks. I don't know. I'm going to go into it probably at another point. It's really fun. I really like it. But that's a point where, I'd only had it in my position for a week before the competition. That made it onto my first draft right there. And so from that point, it went from first draft, and then it started to get more obscure as you went on, to the point where I had my single-sided jiggler on the complete opposite side of my hand in the event that I need to completely swap between that. And so the single-sided jiggler doesn't have a lot of uses. So that's why it was at the complete opposite end. So
like a break in case of emergency.
In case of emergencies, I called it my tactical nuke option because of how much I abuse the single-sided jiggler and how often it works for me. And so what ended up happening is, on the other hand, with the tension tools, that's where I had to get a little bit more. Well, a tension tool is a tension tool. How do I organize that? So there was a bit of thought process that worked for me, but in general, there's a takeaway. If you're a lock sporter going into a competition, you need to think about how much time you're given, your access to your tools, and what tools you quickly need access to. Because if you're going for like this weird, obscure, like, German, like tool that you have that's like to a very specific, like millimeter point, and it's all the way in the back of your bag, and there's only like one lock in the world that really uses that, are you really going to throw that on your quick set? like your not quick set, your quick reach kit right there. So I actually had a methodology where like my favorite tension tools were separated by two different types, where we have this Z-bar thing. So we got this, which is called a Z-bar, or a variation of it. You could also call it a wiper. Doesn't necessarily matter. It's, you got two bend points right there. And so I have these in the case that I need to like, use like a large bar or handle on the bottom of keyway. That's usually what I mainly use these for. But then I have my top of the keyway ones.
Oh yeah, those are weird. I accidentally pulled one of those off your wrist whenever we shook
Yeah,
hands.
they're super fun. This is also from the Reaper kit from Covert Instruments. This one also, again, within a week, made it to my first line pick because it was so aggressive at sticking in the lock. Though Sandman didn't like it. So one thing about me is that your average pick size usually is dwarfed in comparison to someone's hands. My hands very small and therefore very good for lock picking, especially with these tools. So I have access to being able to have that option where I have that quick reach. So I had 50 thousandths right at the front, and then I had 40 thousandths, and then I had different variations going all the way back in combinations with 50 and 40 thousandths thickness of the tool sets, because those are the main two that I usually go to. Anything lower than that is more specialized than I need typically. So once I saw that that isn't what I needed, I pretty much took this kit that I have, and then I just put it away and put it right back into my bag, because I realized what I was working with and I needed to consistently hone down on those particular tools at that point. So that's kind of the aspects that you need to think about when you're going into lock sport in a competition, because you're trying to beat other people who are experienced at being able to understand the tools that you're working with. You are also experienced too as a lock sporter, ideally. And then at that point, it just comes down to what competitive edge can you get away with. And so obviously you can't have the key. Doesn't make any sense. I did actually try that, because for the first wafer lock, it looked like it would fit a CH751 common key. And those are prevalent everywhere. You can buy them and you can test them like on server racks, on like mobile homes and stuff like that. Yeah, super common. So my first instinct was, you said any tool to get it open. And so I tried using a key. It didn't work, but it was still fun to have that in my back pocket.
Yeah, that one actually made us like, we were like, whoa, can we use keys? Like the rules, what are the rules? And I was like, I don't know. I'm walking away from this one. I was like, call me when it's my turn to come up here. I was like, shit. I was like, of course you guys are going to meddle around with the rules. Everybody does. It is what it is.
Culture, man.
It is what it is. Yeah. Let me pull up my tools real quick. We'll see if we can compare. Hold on now. Here we go. How did I do that a second ago? That'll do. Let me walk over here. I'm going to stop this cam.
Yeah, sure deal.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Woo-woo. All right, walking to the other room. This is a Delta 44 stand I got.
Oh, I can barely hear you that far. If you're going to stay over there, it's you might need to change where your mic is.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, I had to turn this mic on.
Ah, there we go.
All right. Anyway, this is a Delta 44 Vice that I use to practice with. And these are my tools.
Ooh, fun.
Like I said, I brought like 5. This one hung me up on the Y8 because it's too thick.
Yeah.
So the tool that I use to pick it is an Andrew Law.
Law locks. Yep.
They're my favorite. And I, like you, I had a bunch of Foresight, and a Bogota or a Triple Peak was my rake of choice. And I timed myself raking this versus my leashes. And I'm always faster with my leashes.
Yeah, we were so much like you were, like the locksmiths were laughing at the lock sporters for like having certain bits of gear out. The lock sporters were looking like, that looks like it might waste them some time just trying to get the leashes into the door. So we were kind of like, I don't know what they're doing over there, but we all brought a different approach to those particular locks. And, I particularly am not the fastest when it comes to leashy tools. I'm no slouch, but, definitely not up to par because, again, I mostly use picking. And that's another difference between the culture of like lock sporters and locksmiths is that the culture around lock sport is slowly being built around this pillar of the lockpicking universe belt system.
Yes.
And by that I mean like whether you or not you want your belts, which just putting it out there for everyone to hear, never going to get my belts. I really don't care to. I'm content using it as a metric for improving my skill set.
Is this the kind of belt you're talking about?
not exactly, but close.
I'm technically a purple belt now.
If I were to sit down and try and measure out like every lock that I've gone through, I would in effectiveness qualify as either a red, close to black, because I have picked a black belt level lock. That was extremely fun, by the way. It's on my Instagram, but I just pick that one every now and then. It's for fun. And I'm looking forward to the day that I actually finally get open another one. I have I think now 9, almost 10 black belt level locks in my collection, and I have only picked one of them because they have some extremely crazy tolerances and extremely crazy uses for those tolerances. Like the Asa Twin 6000, like that one's a fun one. Any Miwa lock, and the Goal V18, which is a 20 up to 21 pin dimple lock that is coming at you from 3 sides. It counts as a high pin security lock. So definitely fun as far as that's concerned. But you can see where that's the structure and the goal for lock sport is that you are slowly building up to the skill level where at the pinnacle you almost cannot ever, if except for getting lucky, rake any lock. And so barring like extreme luck and just minimal chance of being able to accomplish raking open one of those locks, it emphasizes a lot being able to single pin pick. So when people start saying like, oh, should I use a leashy tool? Should I do this? Should I use a common key? Should I do anything like that? We're always going to kind of pipeline as far as being in lock sport right down to single pin picking, because that is where we say that's the essence and the finesse of the skill. By all means, I encourage people to go out, buy leashy tools if they think it's going to be really fun for them. But I emphasize, don't do it unless, of course, it is for fun or you just want to have it. Because unless you're becoming a locksmith, I personally don't use leashy tools, which was another downfall as far as like availability on the automotive leashies and the keys, the locks for automotives. So I'm going to try and find like a way to get more automotive locks and more automotive leashies, because it's not that I had never been able to pick open a automotive lock with a leashy before. I'd never picked any of those open with an automotive leashy before. So that was I literally walked up and had a brand new experience, and I was the most experienced as far as having auto leashy time. But that was there's a difference between like trying to learn something completely brand new and having some experience on it versus learning something completely brand new and you're freaking being like in the middle of a 5-minute competition. So I had 5 minutes. I had 3 chances for 5 minutes apart, 15 minutes total to learn how the fuck 4 other leashy tools worked and 4 other locks worked, which you can imagine probably not the most conducive to winning.
Right. It's like I teach automotive leashing and stuff, and I tell people from coming lock sport to locksmith like about SPP, creating a binding, wafer or part, affecting it so it's marginally springy and moving on. And if you do that successfully, the lock picks. It's really that simple. But with automotive locks, the system comes into play. Like, can you have a 5 depth next to a 1? It's like if you're picking the lock and this one feels springy and this one's springy too, you have to mentally determine like that violates the rules. So I need to push this one down, And that's what really helps with a leashy in automotive, at least, is like,
And that's the skill I didn't have.
yeah.
I heard you talking about that with Sandman on the other video, and I'm like, oh man, there's another depth to this that I was unaware of, but it is far too late for me to figure it out now.
I mean, it's similar to how like Schleg and Quickset have like a max,
Yeah.
maximum adjacent cut spacing and such, but the rules are just, you can't mess with them. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You do it, you put the key in wrong, it's cut different, can't get it out. So it's like, I don't know. I get it. Like they're different tools. It's hard to pick a car door lock with a tension wrench and a hook.
Mhm.
The materials are way more fragile. Even like
Yeah.
whenever locksmiths pick a lock the wrong way and it locks the door, I get the question a lot. Can we plug spin it? I'm like, no. You're gonna fold. You're gonna
You're gonna
fold that
break
thin
it.
metal. Yeah, instantaneously. So it's a whole different sector. And speaking of that, that's what we tried to do in this competition was lock sporters have an advantage basically, and automotive we have one, one where we can be advantageous on. And you guys definitely showed that. Lock sporters open the padlocks the most, and when it came to the third round, you guys like were scary efficient. Um, I'm definitely gonna buy some of those tools that you have.
Yeah.
The jigglers, yeah.
It's all about finding efficiency, and on top of that, like a lot of the people that I was there with had experience. Some of them I even met at the Red Team Rush for the first time, and so that particular environment and that set of individuals, their focus is on finding the most efficient way to get past security, in line, of course, with conducting a pen test.
Right.
Uh, and so that mindset is the quickest way to get past a problem without getting caught. And that can be like a mindset that one could argue is like not okay, but you really got to set the rules. And honestly, one of the lessons that was learned while being there and how seriously y'all took security really put it in a different perspective of how red team assessments are set up and the full scope of legal implications that come up in the event that someone steps out of scope. Which
Yep.
is referencing like, hey, you're only allowed to go into this storage cabinet. Don't open storage cabinet B. And someone's just like, oh, I forgot to read that line, and I opened storage cabinet B. You're now in violation of scope. That's how a pen test is set up. Of course, it gets far more complicated when you're dealing with computer systems. So you really got to be heavily documenting everything you do. And so it gave me a brand new appreciation for just how much of a deeper level I was missing as far as the legal aspects were going for that. So very, very interesting lesson to take away, and especially getting to meet Deviant Olem and learning like some of the extra parts that went into. We didn't necessarily have a particular discussion about that, but some of the stories he was sharing very much alluded to the fact that the barriers and like the limitations can be narrow at times, and finding
Absolutely.
ways to solve that and be efficient, not get caught, get away with the gold, and basically act like you were never there. That's an entirely different set of mindset and skill. And so, as opposed to getting out to a scene like a locksmith, being friendly, being open, being fully transparent. For the side of red team, for the side of Locksport, for the side of hacking, you have to start thinking in terms of how can I be as untransparent as possible. I need people to have as much obfuscation. I need to be efficient. I need to be quick, and I need to have streamlined tools that will not get caught in the event that someone finds me. Really good example of that. Again, reaching into my bag of mystery. This is not at all related to lock sport, and this is not at all related to locksmithing, but it is a fun example of how hacking basically requires you to think more in terms of obfuscation and lowering suspicion. So we have right here this, which is basically, it just looks like a double-sided USB. This is in fact a rubber ducky sold by a company called Hack5. I use this for pranks, and all it is a human interface device disguised as a USB stick. What does that mean? A human interface device is, in essence, the thing you use the most, a keyboard or a mouse. In this case, it's a pre-programmed keyboard. So I walk up to an open computer, I have a pre-written script in this that if I were to plug it into an open computer, like let's say you just walked away for a second, I plug it in and it runs a PowerShell script that like does all like the hotkeys, because of course you can navigate Windows not even having to use a mouse. Just using a keyboard, I have a PowerShell script that runs, and in your scheduled tasks in your computer, it pulls up a YouTube video at a random predisposed time. That's like, there's a random character setting on this. It just types in a random set of time, and consistently after about like maybe 80 minutes, it pulls up Watch Mojo's top 10 Taylor Swift Eras Tour songs. Just consistently doing that. But it's a method and persistence, so it's very fun to like show this off. Now, this one's fun, but this one is the same damn thing. Now, if you would note, this looks just like a USB cable, USB-C cable. This is also another tool made by Hack5. This is actually known as a OMG cable. And what it is that if I were to like hold this up, from a distance, you might not be able to see like which one is which. But if you were to kind of get closer, you might see one of them slightly bigger. And hell, if you were to get like really close, you might be able to see that this one has a bit more of an open gap. But from a distance, you wouldn't tell. This particular head is what's known, I refer to it as the smart head. This is the dumb one because this just lets power go through. This one has a HID implant device just right here. So for size comparison, that's the difference in the technology. And the only thing that makes this one different and more scary is, of course, it comes in a smaller package that's more discreet. But it also has a Wi-Fi emission that you can plug into and send code injection through this as well. So if perchance like you're just using this and I hand it to you like, hey man, can I like plug this into your computer? I just need to charge my phone, or I leave this at the airport or something like that. I can be sitting by with my phone and then like log on to the web server that this basically blasts out through Wi-Fi. And I can inject code packets, like PowerShell scripts, through my phone. So it doesn't run automatically. It acts just like a regular charger until I send you something scary, like Taylor Swift's Watch Mojo's top 10 Eras Tour songs.
That's crazy. And is this what you give presentations on? Is this where you learn like at DEF CON? Is this what this is about? Like
Yeah. This is part of it. But as far as this is concerned, I'm a noob. I'm basically like gear broing at this point. Like, oh yeah, man, you're gonna want this. I think these are fun to have and scary if you know what you're doing. Yeah. I don't know PowerShell that well, which is just fun to say as a cybersecurity person, but I don't know PowerShell that well, but people who do can really, mess your day up with this. And as far as that's concerned, I love teaching low-level topics that I do understand because I have certain certifications that I've passed that basically prove I at least know the topic. So when it comes to people who don't know that, I love using metaphors. I love being silly. I jokingly say the minute I have to make a serious presentation, I will die. And so I love teaching that. So like the other day, I gave a presentation at a local cybersecurity enthusiast group called DEF CON Group San Antonio. It's an offshoot of the main convention that happens in Las Vegas, which even if you're not a hacker, even if you're not in cybersecurity, it is a sight to behold. Like this year, they had a semi-truck that was parked in the actual convention center. And much like you were talking about at the beginning of this entire discussion, sometimes you have to go in there and digitally find out stuff that the manufacturer is trying to obfuscate from you. They were doing the same thing with the semi-truck and their global positioning system and their code system because it's hidden through so much obfuscation and so much run codes that are not being like taken seriously. And if I mess up any like particular nomenclature here, I'm not a car hacker, so I don't know. But all the code was obfuscated. All the run codes were obfuscated. All the error codes were obfuscated and like encrypted to the point where nobody can do anything unless you have and buy or subscribe to the proprietary software,
right.
Which if you've ever heard the John Deere story about, farmers trying to hack their tractors, yep. Same thing, but with truck drivers. And so they bring these entire vehicles to DEF CON just so that they can get people to kind of crowdsource cracking the code so they can make an open source version so that they can go ahead and say, go fuck yourself to the companies.
That's really cool.
It's
Yeah,
a great folder.
me and Chris, the guy who helped put on the competition, we're talking about going to DEF CON just to, I don't know, look at it, kind of see, but I don't even know when it is or if I can make it. It sounds really cool. Sounds like there's 17,000 attendees on a regular.
30.
Damn.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
That was this year, and we upscaled in size to the Las Vegas Convention Center. I say we, it's practically like people usually say we. It's like a big family, but yeah, I volunteer there with Tool so far every year, which is the open organization of lockpickers. And they put on a fantastic show every time because we go out there, we show skill, we show competence, we show knowledge, and we show friendliness. And above all, we want to make sure that people leave with a good time. And I've seen some tremendous improvements in the 3 years I've been with them as far as actually going to DEF CON and helping. But this year was outstanding. It's the most professional I've seen them, and I can't wait for them to start being like, okay, we're established. Let's start flexing a little bit now. Let's start showing them what we got. Because they took a bit of a hit, but they're coming back, and I'm really proud of the work that they're putting in. They're really trying to fix and come back from some of the issues that they previously had. And I know some of the people on the board, and they're outstanding people, and they really care about increasing lock sport. But as with any organization, sometimes people butt heads, and sometimes there's Tool member out there, nice. Sometimes people butt heads, and sometimes people just don't agree, and so that can be a bit of a friction point. But overall, everyone agrees lock sport and the community at whole should benefit from whatever action is taken by Tool. And on that note, another competition that I competed in at DEF CON was a thing called a cube, ? Cube. And it was really fun. They had this entire cube, and it was set up by DEF CON Group Las Vegas. They had this cube where it was locked up by all sorts of different American locks, and one of them was a clear lock. Now, people don't know how to pick those locks, so some of them were a little trash, especially the clear one by the time I got there. So me and my girlfriend Aisha strolled up, and we were like, hey, we'd like to try this. And they said, sorry, only teams of 5. And I'm like, is there someone who needs teammates? And they said, yeah, those 2 over there. So we formed up, and we're like, we just need 1 more. And at that moment, some guy showed up and was just like, hey, do you guys need teammates? A band of strangers, just like your average D&D party. We showed up, and we decided to compete, and we took 3rd place.
Nice.
And so the concept was literally like a black box pen test. Black box meaning you have no prior information. All you know is what's on the outside. And so you have to break in, or you have to connect to their web server and kind of hack through it and do all that. It's a CTF, capture the flag, a hacker game, if you will. And much like, I showed up and I gave you a bit of a reason to pep up your game. We did the same with the cube because they did not expect us to pick the locks they had that fast, and we made them stress a little bit. And so as far as that's concerned, everywhere we go where there's a lock picking competition involved and I get involved in it, I just seem to be able to walk away with some notes for them to make it better next year because I'm just really good at poking and prodding.
So if you were to offer any oversight or advice on our competition for next year, what would you add or change to the matter to make it better?
We were actually discussing this afterwards. By the way, if you've never had Ethiopian food, it's tremendous. And we went to an Ethiopian restaurant right afterwards. It was great. And so we were saying if we were to make hey, Lockjaw, there you are. But we were saying that if we were going to recreate this ourselves, basically put ourselves in y'all's shoes, if we were to recreate this, how would we want to see this? And we kind of agreed that there should be 2 categories and a middle one that we have not yet figured out. But the way that you guys conducted it, there's very minimal things except for maybe increasing the amount of padlocks that were on the table and maybe de-obfuscating the way that the rules and the win set was done. If there's a number of wins board going on that could be
a leaderboard.
A leaderboard. Yeah, it would be great.
Yeah.
That would be amazing to be able to see like how everybody racks and stacks. And so it could kind of build some hype and it would be visible to the entire convention. And by, like the speed challenge, that's one of the categories we agreed absolutely has to be it. It cannot be like locks that are so hard that you cannot get it within a very specific time range. So we agreed like a speed challenge should be that, which is exactly what you guys had. And I think having it the way you guys set it up was tremendous, especially trying to bridge gaps between two communities that effectively hold similar skill sets as far as being able to get locks open. And when we were there, of course, we felt like, oh, fuck, we can't do the leashies. And like, we were like, oh, yes, we can do the pack locks, So like there's an up and down. And I think it was a really good balance as far as that concerned. Now, adding or subtracting any events may be put into question just because, again, timing is a thing. And that's a very small note. And I know it wasn't necessarily in y'all's hands, but a lot of what was being projected outward from the TLA and what was being put out there on Instagram implied that it was going to be open. The floor was supposed to be open sometime around 9. And we got there and it didn't open till 10. And you guys for the competition were saying that, oh yeah, the competition starts at 10 because like we saw it like the day prior. And we're just like, okay, is it 10, 11 or whatnot? We were confused at that point. But then it started at 11 and we're like, oh, okay. Yep. So I'd say if we started maybe like just an hour ahead, and honestly, I don't have a solution right now, but I do know that it's something that needs to be fixed is the start time and the sort of call up time between heats, meets, and sessions. So just a little bit more organization as far as like when people should be expected to show up so they can go and, have fun. Because I looked at the list that was put out there. I took a photo and I sent it to a group chat and I'm just like, hey, these are where we're supposed to go. These are the groupings that we have. And I thought it was going to go from the top down. So I was sweating because I was right behind you and you were listed as number 1 on that list. And so I was like, shit, I'm going first. This is a nightmare. And so I was stressing. So then they started from the bottom of the list. Yes, Amanda, I am definitely going to be practicing leashies in excess during this next 365 or less than that days.
Right.
But the timing, the way that people were called up, the expectation of when they were called up could have used a bit more structure. Now I understand there's a lot of stuff going on, especially because we had people pre-sign up to do that. And then people sign up on the day of. So it's kind of difficult to make sure that's done. So I think if there could be a solution that's looked into, it should be how people are called up to interact and the timing of how each session is supposed to start. Because I would have gone and explored more of the convention floor if I knew for a fact what time I was going to be starting at.
I agree.
Yeah. So that's no shade. I understand organization is one of those things that's kind of easy to put into concept, hard to execute on the moment. But much like, shaving off seconds using magnetic gauntlets, let's find a way to shave off seconds or shave off annoyances or friction.
Or confusion. Yeah, shave off confusion for the most part. Because like I'm a smoker and I was under a lot of stress and I would have to run outside and then I'd be like, I think I have 5 minutes, and then someone's like, get inside. I'm like, shit, you know? And like, had I known it was immediate, I wouldn't have left. And like I think it was like 2 minutes between heat in between like first, second, third round of the individuals. So I think a leaderboard, some kind of LED light or a sign would alleviate a lot of stress. We can see who's up next.
Yeah, a leaderboard, a push out of like the brackets, like when you're expected to go, and hard hit times. If you are not there by your hit time, hey man, sorry. I think that would be something that could be looked into. I'm not saying that should be the solution, but that's the first thing that's popping off my head right now.
I agree.
And as far as the setup, we had one category very heavily represented. Like I said, we went to the restaurant afterwards and we said like, hey, speed absolutely has to be a category. But there needs to be a middle ground. We haven't figured that out yet. We just know that there should be. And then I came up with one where it's just like, oh, there should also be a category called open. And jokingly say, yeah, time moves extremely fast there. I was surprised that the end of the day came so quickly. But yeah, to go back on my tangent,
Open.
open. And so people would be like, hey, what's that category? And we just show like a set of locks. Open. That's it. And that's the thing is it can be, you know, a point-based system where like you have to go like, hey, I got this lock. And it has to be whoever collects the most locks at that point, whoever brings the most skill. And we're not talking about like, hey, maybe you got 1 or 2 spool pins in there. We're talking multi-lock. We're talking maybe an ace on the wall. We're talking some things that are a little obscure or out there. Now, here's the thing.
You would have to have quite a time limit for something like that.
Yes, but that's the thing is it wouldn't necessarily be a time limit thing. Unfortunately, as far as that goes, first come, first serve, and if you know you can do it, you can do it. And so that would kind of have to be the risk of running an open category. For one, you need enough to where people won't get butthurt if one lock is being worked on, and you need enough to where it will push a couple people away if they know what kind of lock they're working on. And so I feel it's a great level of elevation from, hey, are you quick at getting things open, or are you really good at getting complex things open? And that's I think that would be a fun representation of skill. And that's actually a difference in a challenge or a championship, in my opinion, where you have people going head to head, which a time-based thing absolutely fits that bill. And then you have what I refer to as a challenge. And I think the open category can be listed more in line with a challenge. And we had several challenges there. In fact, I reached out to Packlock to try and get some suggestions on the challenge that was assisted being set up by y'all with the TLA and Lockjaw. Like for one, the positioning of where they had the challenge presented in the middle of the busiest part where almost nobody could be able to get access to it. How do they expect people to test their lock if they don't even know where it is at that point? And there was another table that was having a challenge where the fastest person to open up a master lock got a big bottle of whiskey, which said bottle of whiskey resides now in my house. And I thought that was an excellent challenge to be able to put forth, because it's not necessarily like, oh, you have, you know, like this complicated thing to get through or blah, 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 or like this timing thing. It's open. It's free. And the best part, in my opinion, if you're going to host a challenge in particular, not a competition, you should, in my opinion, and of course, you know, we can vary on this, have the lock picks for those particular provided. Like when it came to the whiskey challenge, they had lock picks there. Were they the best? Absolutely not. That did not bar you from using your own, but it was an option there. They didn't want to make people feel excluded from being able to at least attempt it. Packlock, I feel, while showing up and showing out an extremely interesting and very difficult looking lock to get through, I feel that it was a tidbit rigged. My feelings on that. Not saying that that was how they wanted to come across, because the specific locking mechanism that they had required a specialized pick. And that specialized pick was only in the hands of one person that I knew of at that point. I don't know if anyone else had it there. And that was Sandman. And Sandman told me he spent $700 on that. And I found that pick online, and sure enough, 660 euros. So not only was it a European tool, it was also extremely expensive. It was also a skill that I would go to say a lot of lock sporters don't take the time to develop. I would imagine locksmiths don't even have the time of day to try and develop that. So I felt it was a tidbit rigged in the decision of no one was going to get it open that day, because there was no tools provided. Some people had never even seen, I would imagine some people have never seen disc detainer lock before. And, you know, I felt like it was kind of just like put on a table, like, go for it. And I agree, that's fun. But at the same time, it feels almost as if like the outcome was predetermined. Hence, my feeling that it was rigged.
It was like 12 disc.
Yeah.
It It was crazy. So I didn't even try it. Yeah, their $500 prize is safe,
Yeah,
guaranteed.
I would say it was too. Oh yeah, live demos would be great. Actually, I think that would be tremendous. I would love to like during like the middle of the competition to be able to stroll over and see someone like demonstrating their stuff. It'd be really cool. But as far as the prize, I had no doubt that nobody was going to get it. It seemed like an insanely hard lock to do, and Packlock is known for really, really pushing to make a challenge for lock pickers.
Yeah.
And I felt like they really hit it out of the park with that. I just felt like we didn't get a chance to actually even try because the tooling for doing so was so specialized that in itself is actually really good advertising. Is that to even try and pick it is good luck finding a tool for it unless you know a machinist who can build that out for you. And oh boy, the tool that Sandman brought out, yeah, it was a universal disc detainer thing with very specifically milled parts and very specifically casted parts. Yeah, it was impressive looking, and it got jammed up in the lock. As far as him trying to try it, before he even gave up on it, he says, "That is a black belt level lock right there. I would have
Oh,
no
for
doubt."
sure. For sure.
So I think their prize was secure, but I think it would have been
Mhm.
more impressive if you were walked up like just like, hey, here's the tools, fuck it, hey, here's how it works, even good luck, and then walk away. I feel personally that would look a lot better as a challenge from a lock that's just you walk in, basically set down the lock, even set down the tools, set down how it works, say fuck you, and walk away and know your money's safe.
I'm curious if like somebody had picked it, if they would have been like, whoa, 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 we didn't have it on video or no one saw it, like you got to do it again.
I
I didn't
think
exactly understand how, they could prove it.
actually, it's fairly simple because when it comes to disc detainers, they are key retaining. So you cannot take it out unless, of course, it's like locked back in position. And the way that Packlock usually has their stuff built out, you can't take out the key because of the way that the ball bearing system works and the way that
Right.
they have their shackles cut out.
Mhm.
So it would have been fairly obvious if you walk up to them, no key, like basically if they have the key in their possession, you walk up to them, no key, lock's open. There's nothing in the lock as far as being able to open it. Yeah, dude, you got it open. Like there's no way to deny that at that point.
Did you get one of these?
I did, and I ended up giving it to my girlfriend because she picked one of the Packlock 98 Pros in front of me, but not at the TLA and I was okay with giving her that one because years prior I had already gotten one that I had actually posted on my Instagram too. Like I sent like several Instagram posts Packlock's way, and Pickin' in Paradise, I believe, was the account that was in charge of like distributing those. I sent an email to him. He asked for my address. I sent him my address, and he sent me a sticker and a patch. So I've had my 200K club for 4 years now. So yeah.
Oh, wow. I had no idea that they did such things. And whenever I picked the lock, they were like, somebody's like, you got to go to Packlock and get a prize. And I'm like, for what? They're like, you picked one of their new series or whatever. And I thought that was kind of cool. A little, achievement unlocked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I
Little,
think it's really fun. It went away for a while because the guy who was initially distributing them, uh, I don't know his personal reasons, but in essence, he just didn't want to do it anymore or couldn't keep up with it. Doesn't matter. He lives his life. He did a really fun thing for the community, but the community missed it enough to the point where I believe Packlock decided, screw it, we'll take back up the mantle.
yeah. Brittany was passing them out to everybody. It was pretty cool.
Oh, absolutely. And
Did
she
you get
guarded them heavily, which I was proud to see.
She stood there actually. Like I watched the footage and she was standing by the Packlock table while we picked. And I guess that was her way of quality control. I was like, "Oh, I never saw her." And hindsight, there she is, just standing right there. It's pretty cool. Um Before this drags on much longer, I figured we might as well just watch the last round. What do you
Sure,
think?
yeah.
All right. So this is we already watched the first or the last padlock round. Neither of us got it, right?
No, we didn't, which was fun. And at this point, I was like, oh man, this is either going to be where it ends or it doesn't end. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to try my best. I know I'm not going to win though. So that's just how it is.
And this was 2 minutes. So five
Yeah, we
locks,
had a
2 minutes.
time.
Yeah, we had to figure out, like, which are going to be easier, which are what. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Conversely, I actually picked the hardest locks on this one because the top lock, the CY24, is supposed to be easy. I found it to be kind of a shitty lock.
So where you are in this last round, I was actually on that side for like the first 2 rounds I went on there, and one of the lock you're picking right there is one of the first locks I opened on that wall. But the second time I went to it, I was getting no feedback. So I was thinking that, god damn it, some of these other fucking competitors like rang it so hard that I can no longer get any feedback on this. So I'm like, screw it. Maybe I'll have luck just doing the Monty Hall thing and, switching the door. That did not benefit me in any way though. So
I agree with you. Like that lock, I think there should be a rule where we can't pick on the same side. I thought we had that as a rule, but we didn't. Because in the final round, you're like, this is my wall. And I was like, that's your wall. And you're like, I've been here before. And I was like, okay, And I always tried to jump to a different side.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like I had a lot of confidence and I was that close to being either first or I mean, I knew at this point I was going to be first or second, but at that point I was trying to give me every advantage I could. So I didn't mean to be a dick by being like, this is my wall, but
no.
Yeah.
No, it's just like when that happened, I was like, do we have a rule in play or no? And we didn't. So I was like, okay, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'd be open to a rotation rule like that was but then again, it's going to be another level of difficulty trying to organize that particular thing. Like, oh, were you on this wall? No, I was on the other wall. Like,
yeah. And here's something that I didn't like. You know how we had to put the tools in the locks ourselves? No help.
Yeah, that was we were told otherwise.
I saw people like peeking around and cheating, and I was like, if it's a rule that we have to succeed or fail in just putting the leash in, then nobody should be looking around the corner,
Yeah. But I mean, like, hey, in this particular circumstance, yep, there you go. Yeah, you won this round. This was fun. We're hyping each other up. We're having a great time and just looking forward to the next one. But as far as like this is concerned, first time that these particular pillars of excellence have been, released. So therefore, it's things that maybe could be improved upon. But I think as far as like having a public display, that's as good as you're going to get as far as making sure that people don't like cheat and look over your shoulder and be like, oh, this or that, like, because phone cameras nowadays, man, like they're good enough to the point where like I could have zoomed in standing like 10 feet away and seen what leashes people were working with.
That is 100% true. We actually used a phone camera at night to zoom in on a faraway sign that we couldn't read, and the aperture exposure and everything, he collected so much light that whenever it rendered it was perfectly clear. And I was like, oh, I was like, technology is insane.
No, man, surveillance capabilities going straight up.
Let's see if we can listen to you scaring the shit out of me. Now, seriously, watch. Whenever you pick the third lock, I'm like, fuck it, blackout.
All right, so on this one, I'm on the second lock right there.
Yeah.
And right around here, there we go. Yep.
That was second. Now you're on third.
Now on third. Third's open. Yep, there you go. You start muttering to yourself.
Yeah, I'm like, you know what? We're going.
You can see me, like, I'm smiling there, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, fuck, I got enough of a lead. I really have to secure it with this Schleg lock now. Fuck. And at this point, you can see my face drop because it's just not working. It's not giving me any feedback.
And you're working on the Schleg right now, right?
Yeah. I was trying to go straight down the line because I had that much confidence I could get the Yale.
So you got three.
Still trying to get something. Yeah.
Yep. That's number two for me.
I'm about to give up on the Schleg and go right down to the Yale because I'm like, screw it. He's on lock number 4. I need to catch up to lock number 4.
I can't tell you how badly those wafer locks pissed me off watching you guys just jiggle them over.
Yeah, I know afterwards you came up because like we went to go eat and I came back and I was checking these out and you happened to show up too and you were just like, hey, could I try that tool that you were using? And I could almost like see like the disappointment that you had of like, fuck, I could have had this the entire time. Like,
Yeah. It's because I discredited like jiggle keys like long ago, and you just like reminded me of them in a most efficient way. You know,
yeah,
like
they are a
it's
scary
unarguable.
tool if you know how to use them. So yeah, at this point, I'm like, screw it. If I'm gonna get anything, it's gonna be the Yale lock, and so that's me trying to like rake it open. And yep, there we go. That's the end. That's all she wrote.
Good sportsmanship. I liked it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a good time. I really enjoyed that. One of the best weekends I had in quite some time. And even the after party was like really fun, just hanging out, drinking whiskey and swapping stories and really just excellent hangout time.
The padlock
was
an Ablo keyway. I had the right tool for the lock. Had no experience picking the one. Removing the tool was troublesome. Yeah, the key, like we actually got the key afterwards, and it was kind of it was hard to turn. You know what I mean? So it was an absolute prototype. Absolute.
I mean, I thought it was really cool, but yeah, the silver bullet, that was the one that I found. Definitely outweighed the cost of the prize. But you know, as far as that's concerned, you know, like I said, Sandman was the only one that I saw actually be able to attempt to pick it. Now, whether or not there was someone else who happened to have a tool, I didn't see them. He was the only person I saw that had one. And honestly, I'm fairly confident that, like I said, the numbers of lock sporters that are able to consistently open disc detainers and the number of locksmiths, I am fairly confident that have never even touched a disc detainer lock. I would imagine Sandman, was the only person to even actually attempt opening that lock.
I agree with that. I think most everybody else just kind of meddled with it, you know, just probed around and felt and, you know, didn't really do much. I bet most of the locksmiths don't know how a disc detainer, you know, lock works, honestly.
That's why I said a diagram. I sent to Packlock that, you know, you guys should include a diagram so that people understand the mechanism that they're working with. And on top of that, one of the other things that was kind of funny, and I don't know if Sandman will like say how much he tried this, but I do know that I saw one or two people at the least attempt to make a cast mold of the key and then pawn that off. But it proved to be fairly difficult to make a mold of it and actually get it to work. So very impressive.
Well, yeah, I can imagine so, because it was hard to turn it with a brass key. So they tried to mold the key to the padlock?
They tried to basically get a clay mold of the key and then dump some lead down that mold in order to get a functional key.
Psh, that's just a waste of time.
I mean, I would agree, except Covert Instruments has made it extremely affordable to carry all that in a very small, very fun, interesting package.
I know, right? Yeah, here I am talking about jiggle keys being a waste of time, and then, you know, now I want some. So, yeah. Sandman says, I only had 15 minutes with the lock. Spent 10 of it trying to get the tool back out because they wanted it back. Well, in hindsight, good trip, you know, excellent, good competition. Trip. And I think I met a lot of good people. There were some locksmiths that were perturbed by the, you know, lock sport people. But I think at the end of it, you guys definitely proved, like, you know, you guys have something to offer and show us. Like, we all have something to give each other, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, despite, like, I could go on about, like, bad attitudes that showed up and, like, comments that were made and actions that were taken that were like, dude, what the fuck? We're just vibing here at this point. But as far as that's concerned, it's just not who I am. I don't dwell on that kind of stuff. I have more people in my life that tell me someone disrespected me than I register. Because it's really, I have more going for me as far as like things I care about than to waste my time on like someone thinking I don't belong somewhere. My thought process is someone's like, you don't belong here. And I'm just like, I had 2 feet and I walked in. I think I can do well myself. So
yeah. Exactly. Standing on business, as they say, right?
Yeah, man. I show up and people either are impressed or absolutely, yeah, I'm looking forward to next year. But people are either absolutely impressed or annoyed at the fact that I walk in and I believe that I am just, yeah, I'm here, I'm there. First time I went to DEF CON, I went with a buddy who I had met prior. He teaches elementary school. Um, the locksmith, yes, that was an excellent time. I loved getting to sit out there because like a lot of the personality issues that were like kind of being caught the wrong way during the convention were smoothed out during the chill out time. Very fun. And you did
Absolutely.
mention like that happens fairly consistently. And we
Yeah,
were excited to be invited to hang out there.
I almost got into a fight Friday night over the dumbest, BS drama ever. And Saturday, all parties were cool, smoking, drinking,
Exactly. And
hanging
so,
out.
yeah.
That's kind of the fun of a convention, honestly, is like the energy, involved in it and the
Yeah.
unpredictability of it all. So
Yeah, I have a fun habit of walking into a place I've been to in the first time and acting like I've been there before. It throws people a lot off guard. So like the first time I went to DEF CON, I went with that buddy, teaches elementary school, and he was impressed because I was going around. I'm like, oh yeah, it's this place, because I'd done a lot of online research, so I knew how to recognize some of the things that were going on. And so afterwards, he's like, man, you have shown me so much. You've probably been coming here so like how often have you been coming here? I'm like, oh man, didn't you know this is my first year? He's like, sorry, what the fuck did you just say?
fake it till you make it, you know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah. But
Yeah.
I like talking, I like yapping, and a lot of the times it sounds like I know what I'm talking about. So therefore, yeah. And I enjoyed showing up to the TLA, and it was very fun because just a quick side story of like me walking up to something and acting like I know what I'm doing, and it just pans out correctly. There was a guy who was showing off his admittedly very cool, very interesting system for making sure that you have like home protection as far as being able to allow and disallow people into your house via Wi-Fi systems and even RFID credentials to go up and just like scan your tag right up to the door and open it. And I was like, well, I'm curious. I have a little thingamabob that does fun little RFID hacking. Flipper
I have
Zero.
one of those. Yep.
Yeah, super fun. And I was like, hey, out of curiosity, could I give that a go? And he's just like, you can, but some guy tried it earlier and it didn't work for him. And I'm just like, okay, well, I at least want to see what technology it pops up as, because if that's a technology where it doesn't work, it might be something I want to look into, And
Right.
so I tap it, and there was a moment where like I'm just like, yeah, I got it. And he's like, okay, and I hold it up to the lock. And at this point, we're all just quiet. And I press the button to emulate the credential, and it goes beep beep. And then I open the door, and I'm like, "Ooh, this is awkward." So
You're like,
yeah,
you
I
guys
just
need
walked
an
up and just like,
upgrade. Ooh.
I should be able to do this. And then he's just like, "You won't be able to do that." And I did it. It just happens a lot. It's very fun.
I did it to my I go to a gym and they use NFC tags, and
Oh yeah.
I copied mine onto my Flipper Zero because he has a thing on it that says $25 if lost. And I was like, that's just like me and car keys. It's digital data, key seed data. I was like, I wonder if I can capture it. Captured it. Now I can share it to my friends and they can emulate it and stuff. And it's like, it's scary what you can do with it. But I showed it to the gym owner and he was like, so you'll never have to order one from me. And I was like, correct. That's the plan. It was pretty cool. I scanned it on this thing and it was like, welcome. He was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I don't know shit about this tool, by the way. I don't know anything about this tool.
It's fun. That's the thing, though, is like learning and picking up stuff and going forth and learning all this and collaborating with a bunch of people, even if they don't necessarily want you there or want to feel comfortable welcoming you. Which, again, I didn't get that vibe in particular because I don't register it, and so I just went out there, had a great time, learned, listened, had some fun, met some very fun, loving, and caring people who very much deeply respected the community that was there. And that community was not the one that I was a part of, though I was introduced to it that time, which is the locksmith community. And there's a lot of interesting takes. There's a lot of interesting attitudes, I will say, towards even outsiders, like, you know, you can might be understanding of like, oh yeah, there's like an attitude towards people who are not really one of us. But I even saw attitudes to people who were one of them, and I'm just like, okay,
Absolutely.
very
Yep.
cliquish, as you put it. You know, but that happens. That's life. People form up into cliques, and as long as you can work together at the end of the day, I think no problem.
Yeah, that's part of the fun of it. Well, I appreciated talking to you and getting your insight about the TLA and the lockpicking convention or lockpicking contest, right?
Yeah.
It was so lockpicking focused that I felt like it was a lockpicking convention almost because people were just jumping on with the padlock and the whiskey and everything
Oh yeah.
else. The
Oh
theme
yeah.
of the TLA this year was lockpicking. Um, well, man, we're at an hour and 40 minutes, so I think we should call it. I appreciate you being on here and giving me your thoughts, so that we can help improve it. And I think next year is going to be better than this year. Every year we try to make it better. And so
Yeah, and I'm happy to take that. You know, I did mention to someone like on the patio, you know, I felt so bad for you that now like I'm just trying to put you out of your misery and take that pressure of the belt off of you, man. You know, I'm just trying to do my best.
I'm very proud, man. It's hard for me to die. It takes a skilled weapon to bring me down. So hopefully next year,
Hopefully next year I bring enough lethality.
yeah, you're sharp you're very sharp. So hopefully you're sharper. And I think that I will be training because I am scared. So I don't want to lose.
Let's make it a real contest, huh?
Absolutely. We'll make it better.
For
Well,
sure.
it was awesome. It was awesome talking to you and getting to know you. And
Absolutely.
until
You
next
too.
time.
Till next time, man. Have a good
All
one.
right. Peace.
Peace.